Welcome to the Porsche Club Insider, your one stop for all things Porsche and PCA. Here's your host, Vu Gwyn, and the Insider crew.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 130. It's September 2nd. Happy Labor Day to everyone, and hopefully you're enjoying your day. Around the table, we're back at PCA's national headquarters. We have Manny Albin, Damon Lowney, and Mr. Rob Sass, and Ethan the Greyhound.
I was saying earlier, we should just get a mic and headphones for him. I mean, he's been...
So I guess we get this out of the way. Rob's now a changed man again.
Congratulations, Mr. Sass.
Thank you.
He put a ring on it.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I can thank PCA.
You can thank PCA because your love was found through PCA?
Yeah.
Oh.
Upper Canada region.
You can talk to membership about
Another
that.
member
marketing.
benefit.
Yeah.
Have we explored a dating app for PCA?
A dating app for PCA.
That's actually not a bad idea.
No, that is a very bad idea.
I like it. We're going to have Bogdan have his own podcast.
Oh,
about,
my goodness.
searching
And
for
you'll have
love.
different activities, different levels. So activity 1 is autocross, medium stress, or rally, that's high stress. And if you can get through rally, you can get through anything, right?
No, let's not go there. So today I think is going to end up being an extended episode. We just got back from Monterey Car Week, and there's a lot to cover. But before we get into it, I want to just remind you, if you enjoy the episode, be sure to hit that like button, comment any questions you might have or any answers to questions that we have. Put it in below, and of course, hit that subscribe button.
And I'm going to ask, I don't know if you've ever asked this. If you can, comment on the Apple podcast. Even if you listen to YouTube, just go to Apple Podcasts. And if you leave a comment, it helps our podcast reach to bigger audiences if we have more comments. 5-star, of course. 1-star, we're not going to give any comments. Not much help. But if it's 5-star and you leave a comment, even if you just hit 5-star.
I don't think I've ever had my Uber driver tell me that, too. Please leave me a good review.
No,
All right.
they just care about the tips.
The tips, exactly. Yeah. All right. How's everyone feel coming back from Monterey Car Week?
I'm tired.
Still catching up.
It was a lot. And then looking at the list of things that we're going to go over, we're not going to be able to go into incredible detail on each one because
I think
a lot.
surprisingly, people do listen to the podcast, and they were asking me about the haunted hotel when we got there.
I survived.
Yeah, not only so, I want to know what I did to Melanie. I got to talk to her after the podcast. To stick me in the West Wing,
The haunted wing.
the servants' quarters.
I was in West Wing was just fine.
No, it wasn't haunted. I mean, if it was, I didn't care. It's just it's not as nice rooms as the.
It's an old military facility that I don't think everything has been renovated.
So you're telling me they've been around 100 years? They're still working at getting around to the West Wing?
Yes,
So,
unfortunately, I think
that
so.
bad.
Yeah, yeah.
it's very it's like a speedster. It's very stark, and
Yes.
my room was. Your room not. Your room. Had
My room
plush
is
carpeting.
more recently renovated.
Yeah.
So
Say the main building, electronic, room clean signs.
Yeah,
and,
Yeah.
Again, we are very fortunate to have the opportunity to stay there because you have to be sponsored in order to stay there. And because we have our relationship with Monterey Pines Golf Course, they allow us to have some rooms there. One, the room rates are incredible, but then it's just so nice to be able to roll over, so to speak, and be at Monterey Pines Golf Course within minutes. But there are some give and takes, and the best thing is I didn't get pulled over this year. I made sure I complete stops just in case and turn signals at every turn.
I was very mindful of that because of your experience last year. I did the 5-second stop at every stop sign, and yeah.
I was gonna say learning the basics.
Yes,
Nice,
yes.
nice.
Now I will say that I think one of our members that stayed there. So when you come up to the main gate, you have to stop at a stop sign, which is about 50 feet away from the guard
It says
stand.
stop and wait for a signal.
It
to
says
move
stop
forward.
and wait for the signal. And I think the member thought the guard gave them the signal, but clearly he or she did not give them the signal, and they moved forward. And I think guns were drawn.
Yeah, they were apparently.
But were they? Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Whoa.
they're serious. And I mentioned this to Manny, like the way you enter the facility, that guard shack, like it changes. It changes from the left side to the right side, and I don't even know why.
But I noticed the exit is completely uncontrolled. There's not even a barrier. So
I don't think
if you
they
really
care if you're leaving, right?
well, no, but I
But
mean,
if
if
you
you
were
really
going
left
in, you
it
would-
up good.
you
You
just
just
go through the
know,
exit, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
through the
what you
exit.
think. This is the government.
They know. They know.
It's been a long time since September 11th. They've had a lot
Yeah.
of planning. So, yeah, just
I will say
Lots
there
of
are
protocol.
bollards after the guard shack if you're exiting. So if they're quick enough, they'll probably raise the bollards. But yeah, there's no gate once
Yeah.
you're past those. It looks like.
Yeah.
Anyways,
but
pleasant stay.
I didn't find it to be all that haunted. I mean, I read all the stuff where I stayed there, and I'm like every picture and by the elevators I'm looking, is there a reflection in there of something that's not really there? I didn't see
our
anything.
hallway actually had the pictures of the haunting is based on a
Fire.
chimney that fell over and
You looked
killed
into
the
this,
wife.
and why are you telling me this?
It's online. It fell over and crushed the building, and inside the right where it fell was the wife of the guy who went downstairs to the lobby to check on something or ask him something in the morning. Anyways, it kills her. But all those
did that
Chimney
happen?
fell on his
the whole sequence of the chimney not falling, but the rebuilding and everything, it was all in our hallway. Which I'm thinking, I wonder if this is where it happened.
Oh.
The West Wing, because I never saw those pictures when I stayed in the main building. But nonetheless, it didn't.
But you had no problems, ghost wise.
Look, like the one ghost story you have, you milked that out so long. If I get a ghost story, it's got to be for the rest of my life. I'll be able to tell the ghost story. So, but unfortunately, I did not see anything other than the moths that would come in because they have no screens in the windows and no air conditioning. So that and I liked that how they were nice enough to start leaf blowing at 6:00 in the morning. I didn't have to worry about my phone waking me
I
up.
thought California is not allowed to use like 2-cycle.
Well, evidently
leaf
the
blowers.
military bases are exempt.
Oh,
And then they also decided to recycle metal right outside my window.
So they're like shredding metal outside.
Not
your
shredding, they were like chucking it. It sounded like they were chucking metal into a metal dumpster.
are you a light sleeper?
Not really, but
It was loud enough
when
to
you
woke
hear
you up.
clanging of metal outside your window, and the window's
I
open.
put on all my gear. I got my headphones on, my mask on, and like
Crucifix,
It's
holy
too bad,
water.
'cause-
lights are still on, fans on.
For the record, I didn't hear any of that, and I was in the West Wing.
You were further down.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Well, I was like right near the middle. What I did hear.
Where were you, Rob?
I was, I guess, in the main building.
You were in the main building.
Yeah. So you had like the Admiral Nimitz suite in the main building, right?
I did?
I don't know. I just made that up.
Yeah.
But
Well, we're close to the airport. It was the airport that woke me up. At
Yeah,
like
super
5:15.
convenient. So again, thank you to the base for letting us stay there.
Yep.
But yeah, we actually went in a little bit earlier than normal this year. We landed Tuesday night so that we could be ready to rock and roll on Wednesday. So, man, you want to start on what we got done on Wednesday?
So we went to Broad Arrow. Most of our plans had to go into the wayside because Porsche's plane, all the
From
people
AG.
we were going to work with from Porsche AG in Germany was delayed a day. I felt bad for him because that was really bite when you are international. But we had to scramble and change our plans. So we went to Broad Arrow a little earlier to scope out the cars. We had an appointment to get a ride in a GT2. So we're going to do an article about it, 993 GT2. But we also gave us a chance to see what cars we would pick to do our walk around. And Broad Arrow was open, but it wasn't like it was going to be when Motorlux opened. It was pretty laid back.
Yeah.
A lot of cars, but daytime. Daytime's not as pretty as the nighttime in that hangar area.
we should thank Jeremy Malcolm, Kevin Fisher, and David Swig at Haggerty and Broad Arrow for giving us that opportunity.
Yeah,
That
Meg
was
as
pretty
well.
cool.
She's
Yeah.
in charge of media relationships. They took care of us, and I'll get the story out of the way before I forget it. So we are focused on recording the 993 GT2 content. And the GT2 is if you're not familiar with it, was a car they built just so they could race the GT2. So it was a car that has bolted-on fender flares. It is like the GOAT of 993s. It's not as powerful as the modern cars today would be, but back then that was the one mean car.
It also probably only weighs like what? I'm guessing 2,700 pounds the most.
Yeah, it's not super light,
Yeah.
but it's
It's well under.
It was a car we never got in the U.S. It was a car that for the longest time, if you cited one, it was really, really rare. Usually just saw in magazines. So it's at the time they were saying 1.2 to 1.4, I think they were predicting it was going to sell for. And so we take it out for a ride. And David's like, it has 7-year-old tires. It's worth 1.4, so I'm not going to really be pushing it too hard. And I said, that's fine. I said, we'll just talk while you're driving. So we did about a 25-minute drive. And at one point, we're merging onto the highway. And up ahead, I can see a brand new silver GT3 RS. Mm. And as we're coming up, I'm like, wow. I said something like, just when you think you're the coolest guy on the highway, then we show up. GT2. Yeah. And I'm putting my thumb up to give him like thumbs up. And as I look over, his face was priceless. His mouth was agape. Oh. And his eyes were really big, and he just stared as we went by him. And I could only think, I thought, well, number one, he's an enthusiast because he knows what this car is. And secondly, he's probably thinking, is this real? Of course it is. I'm in Monterey during car week. It has to be real. And we just blew right by him. And I thought, what are the odds when you have a GT3 RS that something better is going to come blow?
If that guy's listening, don't worry, man. I like your GT3 RS. I'd probably take that one over the GT2.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Really? I'd rather
that
have
would
that.
It would be it depends what you're going to use it for.
Yeah.
And if you're collecting, then obviously the GT2, obviously the new GT3 RS is just so much more modern and better equipped. It's really apples and oranges between the two. But if you only had one car to choose, that would be a great argument to have.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Tell me which one you would take. Ready? 1, 2, 3. GT2.
GT2.
GT3 RS.
Because everyone and his brother seemed to have a GT3 RS in Monterey. There wasn't many GT2s.
Well, I will tell you the best thing about that particular GT2 is ordinarily with cars like that, they get semi-pickled. They don't get driven. They show up with 1,500 miles on them. This car had 37,743 kilometers on it, about 23,000 miles. That's impressive. So my hat's off to the people who were the previous owners of it for actually using and enjoying that car. And maybe we can settle the riveted, bonded, or both fender flares.
Yeah, I guess we got to correct ourselves because we talked about it on the podcast.
Well, we still need to do a little bit more research and find another example.
Believe it or not, Nathan doesn't know everything.
Well, that's again.
I don't think any of us know everything.
That may be the most shocking thing.
If you base it on that particular car, then
and I think he'll be the first one to tell you that.
Yeah, of course. So we had talked about the flares on the GT2 on a recent podcast as well, and we were surprised to learn that the rivets may not have been functional, and that the world just for us just didn't seem right that Porsche would have something on a car that wasn't functional, especially something so obvious as visible rivets on a fender flare. So when we learned that they were glued on, I'm going to say I lost a little bit of sleep. Just because it was just weird.
Yeah, it went from love to hate.
Not.
Well, it's just a lot of questions now we had.
Like what else? What else is out there that I'm misunderstood about?
This is a car. They were doing from homologation.
Yeah.
So
the first thing I did when I saw that car at Broad Arrow, and I was respectful, but I tucked my hand in between the front fender and the tire, and
he looked like he was doing a proctology exam.
So I had a couple jokes lined up that I wasn't going to.
Yeah,
let's keep it PG. Let's keep it PG.
What number podcast is this?
130.
I'm going to go out on a limb. This is quite possibly the geekiest conversation that has ever been had.
And I felt the perimeter of the fender, and my fingers got caught on a bolt. And the end of caught on a bolt and the end and a nut, and so I'm like, oh, no way.
So they're technically not even rivets.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
So then I carefully proceeded to slide my iPhone in between the tire and the fender and took copious photos of the underside of the fender. And the world, to me, as of right now, is right, because every single one of those quote-unquote rivets are actually bolts and nuts. Now, they're not, I did see also the adhesive or the double stick tape or whatever they put in between to have the even gap. But those bolts and nuts, they are functional.
Wow.
we
So
should
you
also-
are now the Jackie Treehorn of GT2 porn.
So
Wow.
that is only one example of a GT2 which I have done this
Yeah,
to.
we
So if
should
you have
also-
a GT2, please confirm for us, because again, I'd like to think the world is right.
We should also say we've spoken to one other expert who confirmed without us asking that it was adhesive and bolts. So maybe we go to one more person and
I need
triple
one more
check.
car. I
One
need
more
one
car.
more car to check. One
right.
more documented, legit car.
Oh, you're going to Germany in November.
I am,
Just,
and
Right.
I will seek out one for
just
sure.
ask Klaus to the museum to.
But it's a detail that maybe not everybody pays attention to. I don't know. So I really would like to. This is gonna sound weird. Put my hand on another GT2 and just confirm.
We
it.
know the
And
real
we'll leave
reason.
it at that.
We'll leave it at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, Broad Arrow had a nice selection of Porsches to pick from, and once we got done the filming, and it was actually hot that day.
So hot that initially when we started, it was a cool day, so none of us
It was
put sun-
overcast, and
Yeah,
Lord knows
none
I
of
thought
us
it was going to
put-
stay overcast the whole
Yeah,
day.
none of us put sunscreen on, and by the end of the day, ooh, we were feeling it.
Yeah, my top of my head's flaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
TMI,
clearly.
but
So
still
my
have my-
my best memory was the guy with his mouth wide open as we passed him in the GT2. The second best memory was walking into the last building and hearing Damon mutter under his breath, "God, I hope there's no Porsches in here for us to film."
So that was when the sun was fully kicking in, and I had already asked Damon to, film at least
We had done like 10 or
cars
12
already.
we
and-
started with a list of what, like 7 or 8.
Yeah,
and by the end
but there
it's
were
like
just
15.
so many cool cars, and the
Yeah,
and the
agreed.
thing is, I rather take video of too
Yeah.
many and have Damon cut them out than to miss. And one of the last cars was really probably one of the most special cars there that I think a lot of people walked by, and that was that 928 Club Sport. Was that
yeah.
the last car we did?
I think that was
One
on
of the
list.
last cars.
That oak
Yeah.
green,
Yeah,
928
but it was
Double
like parked in the
356s.
corner
Yeah.
next to. It probably got a lot of mislooks because there was like a gorgeous aubergine. I think it was a long hood next to it, which stands out
Yeah.
tremendously compared to an oak green.
We talked
928.
about that. That car had been consigned, I think, to a previous auction and didn't make it in the country in time or something like
Yeah.
that. But most people don't know that car even exists.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think I remember that. And you had brought it up.
Yeah.
I was definitely shoved in a corner
yeah.
of the display of cars. But inside the building, it was not air conditioned, but it was certainly shaded, which was
Yeah.
and they had water too.
The best water ever, right?
Yeah, they did have was it a 6,000 mile 356 B cabriolet with the hard top?
Oh yeah, with the hard top.
Did you see that one, Rob?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
cool.
that was and it went rent fairly low. Richard Trujillo was telling me.
Yeah,
I was like, wow. I'm like, you could not restore one for that low.
Yeah.
And then here it's original.
yeah.
I could do without the hard top, but still it's cool to have it. But to have one with that kind of low miles.
What was the other one that went really low? I think it was like 130.
You're thinking of the
140?
964 Speedster.
Yes.
That's when you texted
How-
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how-
127, I think.
How is that car so low?
I don't know. That's I would have loved to
I mean, it's a bit
talk
much.
to
if-
someone who looked at it closely, and
Yeah.
that's the one with because somebody said, well, it has comfort seats, doesn't have the sport one-piece sport.
Is it
buckets,
polarizing? Because it's like
and
lots
red
of
wheels and
red
but,
wheels and
I'm like,
narrow body.
Yeah,
and-
that's I can both those things I can fix fairly easy.
Yeah.
So-
but
so-
you never know if there's a story.
That's
That,
what
I
I
mean,
mean,
the people
yeah.
who are serious
Yeah.
bidders on these cars do
They-
their
they
homework.
know.
And things tend to happen.
Because I
for a
feel
reason.
like the price that I went for is a solid 964C2.
It went for 130,
125, I think.
125. That's
Right?
these days. That's kind of, that's a 964 C2
Like
with
an immaculate
Yeah.
C2.
85,000 miles.
Right, exactly.
So I was thinking about this as well. And so I remember back, let's say before 2014 or so, around 2014, let's say slightly before, a 964 Speedster wasn't a $100,000 plus car. Not yet. Shortly afterwards, it was. But what was the peak of those cars? 200 something? 300 something?
No.
You think it was
no.
more?
No, I think it was less.
It was less.
I don't think they've.
So to me, 127 doesn't actually seem like super low.
So out
for a
the door, it
964
was
Speedster.
142.
It's 142.
Another one, the silver one, sold for $229.
Okay, then there's
See?
a comparison. Yeah.
See,
Yeah,
that's
never
what I
mind
would
then.
expect. I would expect 200 in today's market for a
Yeah,
car like
yeah.
that. And it sold.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh, ouch.
Yeah, maybe there was a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's crazy. I mean, because now that's like RS America money too.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
And a speedster is a speedster. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Well, RS America money.
So it
5
was
years
either
ago
well
was
bought-
120.
It was either well bought or there's a story that we don't know about. So
Right.
if you know, if you're listening and you know the story on that car, we would love to know more about it.
so. From there, we transitioned. We actually went back. I think didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, we did go back. Once again, the advantage of staying at the haunted hotel. We went back and were able to take a quick shower, change, and come back. And at this point, you weren't there yet, Rob. You were on the turbo drive.
Yeah.
So it's the four of us, Bogdan, Damon, Lou, and myself, and Ilko.
Ilko was there,
Yeah,
yeah.
Ilko was there.
And this was the place to be seen, my friend.
Yes, it's part of these parties. The thing I love is people watching, people that want to impress, and people that could care less who they impress. The ones who care less are usually the billionaires. And they were doing an auction too, which was pretty cool because I watched an auction for about an hour, and they had a really great setup where they would roll the cars up on this ramp, like a red carpet ramp,
Yeah.
and they would stop, and there was a turntable that would spin the car completely around. Because the first time they drove up, I'm like, this guy's going to be backing down all this way. This is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
But instead, the turntable turns the car around, so then it shoots right back down.
It's like a fashion. It was like a fashion
It was.
runway.
It was like exactly. That's exactly what it looked like.
Wow.
And I was there for about an hour. Our friend Paul Greger and his family Paul's from Porsche were there, and he keeps on texting me going, "Where are you at?" I'm like, "I'm on the left side, behind the seats." And he's like, "Well, I'm on the other side. And I can't see him." Finally, I see him. Well, he was trying to wave to me. We're both waving at each other.
Oh my gosh!
During the
you
auction,
were not waving during the auction. Ay, ay.
and I thought, "Wait a minute, I should not be waving when they're like at $1 million."
Yes.
It's something for this car. But yeah, it was something that I don't remember them doing it last year in auction while Motorlux was going on.
So to set the stage, if you've never been to Motorlux, and I had heard about it, it's pretty extravagant. I mean, they welcome you to a sea of beautiful cars, airplanes. They have sort of like the Cirque du Soleil kind of thing going on in one of the hangars, and chandeliers hanging. They've got champagne pouring everywhere, and they get probably the top food stall stations or whatever in the Monterey area, and they're serving all sorts of fantastic food. People are dressed to the nines, those that are wanting to impress, and as Manny said, those that are kind of frumpy are probably the ones that are most wealthy and don't really care. But yeah, it was a place to be seen, and I even saw Snoop Dogg's like tequila line, gin and juice, or whatever it was. It's just a hodgepodge. If you want to people watch, that was the perfect place to people watch and mix in some incredible cars.
I wonder so we were there during the day, in the morning, and at night. I wonder if any of you had a preference as to what time period you preferred to be there. And I'll start. I liked the daytime because it was.
I would have guessed that you would have liked the daytime. Me personally, I liked the evening. I liked the loud music. I like people watching. I like seeing all the action going on. So I'm definitely more of the evening.
If I had someone walking around holding an umbrella over my head, maybe daytime. But no, the evening was nicer because it was cooler weather and a lot more people, a lot more action. And in the daytime, it's kind of like going through Space Mountain at Disney World with the lights on. Not that impressive, but once the lights go down, it becomes much more magical.
It's a party.
Not that it was dark or anything. It was just it was cooler having a lot more people there. Yeah, exactly.
Any celebrity sightings?
The closest I came to was, so I'm walking around and hear my name called, and it's Rory Ingram from the Ingram collection. And so I walk over to say hi, and immediately I know who he's standing next to, but I just put my hand on. I said, "Hi, Manny Albin." And he goes, "Ray Abraham." And so I was talking about, small talk about the event. So I excused myself and said, "Well, I'm going to keep on walking around."
Yeah.
And I looked at Ray. I go, "By the way," I know who you are, and I'm a big fan. He got a big smile on his face because I'm sure And for those who don't know, Ray Abraham was the crew chief for Jeff Gordon during Gordon's many Winston Cup championships in NASCAR, and is very famous in his own right for what he's done since then. But I don't know how many car or NASCAR aficionados were there that would recognize who he was, but it was pretty cool. What I didn't get to ask him was if, because he was at Werks Reunion also. I didn't get to ask him if he also has a Porsche.
Oddly enough, the place where I've seen the most celebrities in Monterey is at the Baja Cantina off Carmel Valley Road.
Yeah.
For whatever reason,
it's a cool dive.
It's fairly low key. It's a cool dive, yeah.
So I saw when I went through the auction, I said hi to Nathan Mers, and they kind of held court in that one corner, and Patrick Long was there, so that was cool. And then I saw when we were over by the GT One, we were walking through, and Adam Carolla.
Oh yeah, I saw him too.
Yeah, Adam Carolla was there, so that was cool.
Yeah, I didn't really see too many celebrities on this whole trip, to be honest, but I did see.
You were so focused on filming.
I did see Tommy Kendall, who's
cool.
a race car driver, and has also hosted some shows on, I think, various like Motor Trend TV and Speed TV over the years. So, I love watching his shows. I know he's a great driver. It's fun to watch his car reviews.
Yeah. He was a Corvette like C7R winner at Le Mans, wasn't he? What was his?
I don't know his racing background. What's funny is I know has a racing background, but
Yeah.
I know him more from the shows he did.
He
when
did
I
a
was
lot of
growing
Trans
up.
Am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we get into Werks Reunion, there was another show going on at the same time. It's again kind of the place to be, especially with some of the new car reveals for a lot of manufacturers. It's a big price tag to be there, but our very own Rob Sass was there and enjoying the Quail.
The Quail.
The Quail.
Yeah, no, I was there for the reveal of the 993 Speedster, but yeah, everybody was there. Singer, Gunther Works, a lot of OEMs. Yeah, it's I don't know, it's kind of like Motorlux. Lots of food. They meet you with the welcome glass of champagne. The Peninsula Hotels is behind it, and they've got the giant balloon of the Peninsula Hotel bellhop, above the Quail. Yeah, I mean, it is always fairly.
You got to paint us a really good
event.
picture, because none of us will ever be able to get there unless we
How
sneak
much
on
is
it.
a ticket? How much is a ticket at Quail?
I don't know how much is.
I want to say it's at least 1,000 or something.
It's like $1,200 now. I
$1,200.
think. Yeah, I honestly, I
sell
think
out.
10 years ago it was like $400 or $500.
Yeah.
You have
so
to eat a lot to make it worth
it's
it.
kept pace with inflation.
Yeah.
Oh, you said before that they don't serve the food until after the reveal.
No, they seem to, the only thing you can get before the reveals is some ice cream and a welcome glass of champagne. So they are, I think,
ice
very
cream
careful.
in the morning.
Yeah,
Champagne and ice cream to soak it all
Rich
up.
people must do.
yeah. Acura was giving out these parasols, so people were walking around with sun protection.
So I'm sure it's an investment for manufacturers to
Yeah.
be there, but do you think because of the sort of filtered audience, right, that they find it is
Filtered is that a nice way of saying lots of rich people?
yeah
Okay.
With high credit scores.
with high credit score, like they find that still to be a worthwhile event as opposed to, I think we all know auto shows now are kind of going by the wayside.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that I wrote about in my Monterey recap piece is events like this really do seem to be taking the place of the Geneva, Frankfurt, Detroit, those big auto shows. So yeah, I think that they perceive that they're getting more bang for their buck by doing intros there, especially they're well seated with influencers and journalists, media and everything else. So yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, Lincoln had a big reveal. Maserati revealed their new MC supercar, whatever
How
that
is
is.
parking handled at the Quail? How many people are there?
Different than it's been handled in years past. I mean, in years past, when I've been there, I've just parked by the Bonhams auction and walked in. This year, that was all sealed off, and you had to basically drive like another mile or two down Carmel Valley.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
drive, and I think it was a high school parking lot. and they shuttle bust.
Oh, that's
everybody
across from
Rancho Cañada.
Yeah, and so they shuttle bust everybody there
So you shuttle in.
this year, which really actually was not bad. They drop you off right at the front gate, and the buses are there on a pretty regular basis. The real pain was getting from there to Werks. That took about an hour and a half.
And as Manny said, many folks thanked you for giving them a heads up. That's basically Monterey Car Week. I mean,
right. And I looked at
before we go into
every
traffic, going back to the Quail again. How many manufacturer debuts do you think there was?
Acura did one, Maserati, Lincoln. I think there were probably 5 or 6.
Because I remember one of the reasons that the Quail has become so important, probably more so than Pebble Beach, is that some of the manufacturers actually sell their cars, the whole lot of cars, on that day. They take the orders for them.
Wow.
That's what I've been told.
That's
like
not surprising.
Bugatti, and I'm sure Porsche would have come out with the, let's say, GT2 RS.
Yeah.
They probably would have sold a good chunk of them or taken orders right there.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, the filtered crowd, the people who can afford the ticket, obviously, or probably can afford the cars.
It's a marketing person's dream.
Versus being at the LA Auto Show, where that
people like you and I are looking at the cars.
Yes, we're asking for a brochure.
Dreamers.
There's a lot of buzz around it. I mean, even Lincoln, I think they did. Was it a new Navigator or Aviator there? People were talking about it.
Is it me? But I find it, again, from the marketing perspective, I find it odd that Acura did that
at the Quail.
Like, to me, that.
Or did they do it because the journalists are all there?
It's probably because the journalists
are there.
Like they unveiled the TLX or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Which
really?
was not what I was
Compared
expecting. I mean, it was right next
cars?
to Porsche, and it was kind of strange because the TLX they unveiled was this bright yellow that was very similar to the auto yellow of the 993 Speedster. But, I got just a quick glance at it, like, peripheral vision. It looked honestly like a bright yellow Accord.
Exactly.
At
the
really?
Quail?
Honestly, I'm with you. I mean,
Acura sounds weird unless it's an Integra Type R.
Or an NSX.
So Manny has to drive something. So.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Was there any? What was the vibe after Porsche did they revealed the 993 Speedster, and they revealed the Turbo Special Edition. The
50th anniversary edition, the day before Thursday.
Was there any? Because I know a lot of people thought there was going to be something big, either
like a GT1 successor,
something like that, or a GT2 RS.
Yeah,
we knew that Mr. Pruninger was going to be in town, so
which was filled a lot of speculation.
Our guesses were correct.
Yes,
they were.
Yeah, our guesses were correct.
Mr. Pruninger was at Werks.
Yes. So I guess we can kind of say the backstory is we knew Mr. Pruninger was coming, and he had reached out to ask if he could come to Werks Reunion. And, of course, we were elated about that. But then our minds started thinking...
Surprised but elated.
Yeah, surprised but elated. And that's okay. We're like, wait a minute. If he's coming, that's a big deal. But if they're launching something, he wouldn't have time to be with us. Right? Because he would be stuck to the car.
It was really cool, though. I mean, all the speculation was fun. Everybody knows I'm like a World War II buff, and it was like trying to figure out what's General Patton doing in Southeast England.
Yes.
I mean, it was fun to do, but ultimately we know it was the 50th anniversary Turbo and the 993 Speedster, which was a lot of fun. It was fun talking to Grant Larson and Alex Fabig at the Quail about that. So.
I'm sure the 50th anniversary 911 Turbo is probably already sold out and it will do well. But did you all feel that there was a pretty large shadow cast by the Speedster and Danny Blau that the Turbo didn't seem to pop, especially being gray? Like, it didn't pop in the presentations of all the cars.
Dude.
Well, I will say, so I had only so much time, and I edited the Speedster video. We shot the Danny Blue car And we didn't do a write-up on the 911 Turbo 50th because there was no time. So, yeah, it
ouch.
overshadowed the Turbo for sure. in my opinion.
I got a line or two in the piece that I did
good.
about it, but
That's also because normally Porsche will grab us and say, "Have you guys seen this car? Let me show you some of the features that gets you excited." I never had that. No one ever said, "Did you check out this car?"
Nope.
It was definitely Danny Blue and the Speedster, but never did somebody say, "Oh."
And again, it's an incredible car, and I did get to see some of the details. But when you're going up against those two other cars,
right, and also just in the background was, kind of the reason for the season. The car, they had that ice green 75 turbo that was from the museum there. That was really.
Yeah, he's talking about the Quail.
I know we don't even understand what you're saying.
No. At the reveal, at the reveal of the 50th.
I know we weren't there.
Yes.
And we didn't even get to see it. So now
I'm
you're just
sorry.
rubbing
At
it in
the
our
barn,
rubbing it
Right
in
next to the
reveal.
line for the caviar. Remember?
So I do have to say, there was speculation. Remember, there was this GT1, Porsche GT1 looking car. that
At
arrived
LAX.
You
like-
called that one
Tuthill.
correct too.
Yeah,
So, Tuthill.
Tuthill's car.
We'll
Yeah,
talk about that one later. We got that one
Okay, cool,
listed.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, when they unveiled the 50th anniversary turbo, obviously appropriately they had the original car there, and I haven't seen that many 75 turbos that close. So it's fun, geeking out on that car, looking at the 15-inch wheels, the CN36s, and all that stuff that marks a very early turbo. So that was there at the reveal too.
You know why the turbo in the U.S. came with Dunlops and different size tires?
No.
Ride height.
Yes.
Ah.
You got it.
Because what?
Ride height. To keep the headlights within U.S. spec.
So there were taller tires?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Got it. And that they were also concerned about aquaplaning,
Oh.
but they wanted to use the Pirellis, the P7s. But
That was in 76.
that was for the 76 first year
Yeah,
production.
in
Yep.
the U.S. Yeah.
Yeah, I did an article, like 10 interesting things about the first turbo. Also, that
Because the one that they brought was a 75 Europe only, and that was on CN36s.
that's the U.S. They had to
Yeah.
increase the height.
Yeah.
They also didn't come with a boost gauge because Ernst Furman thought that people would be disappointed to find out that you're not really riding on boost very often until you're like flat out, and you build boost up, which is very
in
true.
the middle of a corner.
Yeah, you're not. Even with the 718, I put it on so I could see the boost gauge.
Yeah.
And I think most of the time I almost had accidents because I keep on looking down to see when the boost is coming on. But yeah, that was pretty interesting, those early cars.
So speaking of turbos, Rob, before you were in Monterey, you had an interesting drive which had a bunch of turbos.
Yeah. It was a little bit different than a lot of Porsche press drives. I thought we'd be cycling pretty rapidly through the cars that they brought. It was a nice assortment, everything from that 75 ice green car.
That car was on the tour?
That car was on the tour.
Like it was
Ezra
driven all the way
Dyer. Yeah, Ezra Dyer spent most of his time in it. But 997 turbos, 991.
I heard you drove a car that you're already super familiar with.
I got to drive a seal gray with black 996 twin turbo.
What a new experience. that
I
was
know.
for you.
I only owned one for 3 years, but in their defense, this was a Turbo S.
Oh,
so this
okay.
had, I guess, the X50 power
That's
trait. It
04.
was 450.
5, right?
Yeah, it was 443 horsepower
Okay.
compared to 415. It
That's
still
a
felt
great. That's a great cruiser, though. I mean,
it's
that's a fun car to drive.
spectacular. It reminds me yet another car that I never
Yes.
should have.
Well, you didn't have an S, though. You had a regular.
No, I had a regular. Yeah, but I mean, honestly,
You enjoyed that car too. You put some miles on it.
I did. I had it for 3 years, put a ton of miles on it. My kids put like their fingerprints and Cheetos on the Alcantara headliner. And
But the S was pretty special back then because the S wasn't something like nowadays. The
Right.
first car they come out with is the S.
Right.
Yeah.
Back then, that was
The
like
last
the end, and a lot of them were almost handmade because they were just using enough parts to get through the run that they said they would make. So
yeah,
you don't see many 996.
and this
Turbo
car
S's.
was spec to the hilt, full leather, and it felt.
How many miles on it?
This thing had about I think it had like 22,000 kilometers on it, so like around 13,000 miles, something like that. So I mean it had clearly been used, but obviously maintained by the Porsche Museum. But still, I mean, all those cars even 20 years on, with 100,000 miles, still feel really solid.
So was it just a lead follow? Where did you leave from PEC, or where did you?
No. It wasn't really a lead follow. It was, here are the keys, and show up at the hotel in Solvang. So we went from L.A. to Solvang in Panamera GTS, which those driving impressions are embargoed still. And we went from Solvang the next day up to Monterey.
That's where you got the turbos.
Yeah,
turbos.
Yeah, they were all waiting at the Cork Hotel in Solvang, which is a bizarre place.
That's a cute little town.
Yeah, I mean,
I've driven through. When I was living in Northern California, in San Diego, Solvang wasn't like a place you wanted to go.
right.
It was just sort of a whatever stop on the side of the highway. Now I've heard it's like wine country.
Well, I mean, apparently, it was settled by Danish immigrants or something, and it's all done in this.
Oh, and
Danish...
Anderson Split Pea Soup, which I heard closed. Is that near Solvang?
I have no idea.
Sure.
I was suffering from fairly appalling jet lag for most of that. So, but yeah, Solvang is probably the least California-looking place in California.
And how long was the drive from Solvang to Monterey?
Like 3 hours, if you stretch it out.
Okay.
So it was a fairly long
And
drive,
did
but
you
not
drive
long
together,
enough to cycle.
or did you just?
Yeah, I had a co-driver for that.
No, but I mean, did you drive with the other turbos, or everybody left on their own?
There were kind of groupings, 2 or 3 cars, together, but it was really pretty loose. It wasn't really lead follow. It was just, here's the nav.
Who was your co-driver?
Alan, whose last name I forget, who is a Russian Instagram star. He's got like 2.2 million Instagram
2.2
followers.
million.
Here I am trying to get to 100,000 subscribers.
Tell Bug Don, here's your next goal.
Alan, who, and a really interesting story too, left Russia like on February the 15th or something 2 years ago, and we sort of all know what happened then, but flew to L.A. Like one of the last Aeroflot flights, didn't know a soul there. Really, interesting story. And the guy's got 2.2 million followers on Instagram.
Nice.
What's his?
All right, I'm hitting 400, I think.
Yeah. What's his like shtick? Like, what does he do?
Honestly, his shtick is he's very enthusiastic, very high energy. Unlike a lot of influencers, knows what he's talking about.
Okay.
Drive a manual transmission. And just a lot of his followers seem to still be Russian language, but he's got
Do all of his posts blow up? as our social media specialist always says.
Yeah.
no, but I mean,
Well,
his average number of interactions is like 16,000. I mean, it's
A lot.
Well,
it's
thankfully,
way
it's a automotive social media person, because
Yeah.
I've been on some events where the person that comes not even in the automotive world,
like
they're
he's
just
a
there
fashion
because
of the travel world.
yeah,
or something like
they
that.
have
Yeah.
no idea what they're driving.
Yeah, he's solidly from the automotive world.
Oh, that's cool.
Very knowledledgeable. Really interesting to hear about what the the car scene in Russia is like, and got several earfuls about Chechen drivers. So Google that.
I love watching Russian car cams or windshield cams and different things they get into, and the brawls. Yeah, one of my.
I feel like you have to have a dash cam in Russia.
Exactly.
I used to watch this
Probably
one
shouldn't have
channel
one here,
that anything with YouTube, you watch 2 shows and suddenly your feed is filled with it. And there was this one group that, and so in Moscow particularly, they drive on anything that's paved or relatively paved.
I know where you're going with this.
And they would drive on sidewalks. So these people would exactly. This group of young people would block the sidewalks so cars couldn't drive on, because they're saying this is for pedestrians.
It's like a sidewalk takeover.
Well, yeah, but they would just block the car and stand there. And of course, the people would get mad to get out when they want to fight. And you'd always have one part of the group that looked like he was a linebacker that would stop any driver thinking they were going to push these people around. But they also made these, about 20-inch diameter stickers.
Yeah.
Round sticker that said something Russian, like I don't know what it said, but it must have been not very nice. They would stick it right on the windshield, blocking the driver.
Yeah.
And the more the driver was a jerk, the more stickers they would put on the car.
And it's one of those stickers where like when you peel it off,
It comes off in pieces.
comes off in pieces.
Wow.
Yeah.
Further infuriates.
So these people absolutely deserve it, because instead of being in the flow of traffic with everybody else. Everybody's waiting. They hop a curb and they drive on the sidewalk. And these guys come out and they just slap the sticker on them.
Can we make that a thing for like the Mopar and Mustang Smoky Burnout
But
guys?
the difference is in
cars
Russia, I don't think handguns may be as prevalent.
That's a good point.
And because all I was thinking was, if that happened here, there'd be gunfire.
Yeah.
Not good.
But anyways, that makes me think of when I think of Russian drivers is driving on the sidewalk. Not that I've not been tempted sometimes, especially in Monterey
Out of us four here, I feel like you were probably one of the most tempted out of all of us.
Out of the four here, who would be more apt to go into road rage?
Not road rage, just thinking a better solution to to exiting.
Yeah, definitely this guy to my right. All right, so it puts us to Friday, our favorite day, which is Werks Reunion at Monterey Pines Golf Course. And wow, what a crowd.
Yeah, it was. And so once again, kudos to all the volunteers, Tom and Cindy Pravasi, Melanie Williams. They do so much behind the works, behind the scenes for Werks Reunion that this year's setup on Thursday was extraordinarily smooth. So smooth that I you're doing it for 10 years, you realize if you're behind a gun, so many times we've been like, where's the tent people? All these tents have to go. The sun is setting. We got to get this done.
We used to stop at like 7, sometimes 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Manny,
this time,
do you still have like this paternal or kind of fatherly feeling? Because I mean, you've seen this grow. This is something that was kind of, that happened when you were the president, and you and Vu.
I do internally. Most people have no idea that I had anything to do with this event, which is fine.
Yeah, but I mean, internally, you must still feel like,
sure.
Dad.
I mean, we were just talking about how we were just a series of events that led to this event being happening. That really, I think, in some ways, changed the direction of our club because we expanded it to the East Coast and. Now it's an event that's the Friday event other than Quail.
Right.
And for one mark. I mean, I was reminding somebody from Porsche, I said, believe it or not, for the first 3 years, Porsche pretty much told us, we don't have the resources, we don't have the money, we don't have people to send to you.
Right.
And I said, that's fine, just swing by. Because at the time, we were next door to the Quail. And I said, just swing by if you want to and just check it out. And, we kept on growing it. Then after 3 years, I think they were like, hey, we may want to send over and put up a stand or put up a display. And since then, now we have the West Coast Restoration Contest, which they had, I think, like 20-some cars.
Semifinals, I believe.
Yeah, with huge presence from Porsche, as well as, 30 other vendors?
Yeah, 30-plus vendors. And
the expectations for it were low. I mean, I wasn't part of national staff when it started. I might still have been part of sports car market then, and the buzz then was, oh gosh, they're crazy to break off from Legends of the Autobahn, a single mark show. They're never gonna
allow me to tell this story. We were pretty kind of sitting happy that we were sharing fairways with Legends of the Autobahn. We had an allocation of a space of 150 cars, and they I won't go into full details, but when BMW CCA decided to move on and didn't tell us, we decided to stay at Rancho Cañada. And I remember Manny and the team thinking, okay, we're going to do this on our own. Hopefully, I remember this number clearly because we were at 150. Manny was like, I hope, just to show them that we can carry the show ourselves, I hope that we can get to 300 cars.
No, 500.
No, that's what we went to. But initially you said, I hope that we can get to 300 cars. And that first show we did 500.
Yeah.
I remember you just wanted to double what we had at Legends, but we more than doubled the very first show.
Yeah.
I do remember standing the year before with Jens Walter, who was president of Motorsports in North America for Porsche. And I said, Jens, this time next year, there'll be 500 Porsches along all these fairways, just Porsche. And I think I looked over at Vu and I said, if there's only 200, we're going to spread them out so they look like 500.
No, he's like 300. We got to get to 300. We got to get to 300.
And, but we could tell there was a need.
Yeah.
And at the time had come. We had, we were grateful for the opportunity with Legends, but the time had come, and we could just tell from our members that
we could do
more and more wanted to show cars, that we could showcase so many more things and do things the way we wanted to do them, which we saw so much room for improvement over Legends, that Did I think it was going to get this big? Did I think we were going to do one on the East Coast? No. I remember telling Boo, if it lasts 3 years, then we may be onto something here.
Right, and that's the big thing is the staying power, because as we all know, things come and go during Car Week. Russo and Steel is gone. Concours on the Avenue is gone. I think, isn't Concorso Italiano?
No,
They're still there. Still there.
Okay.
But here's the thing with PCA and, accolades to our executive council, our volunteers that run it is, I feel like we do take a look at ourselves after every event and go, what can we do better? And there's always something to do better. I don't care how good we are. There's always something to do better, be it location, be it a feature of a model or something like that. Like, we're constantly looking at that, because I think the shows that kind of dwindle and go away is because they develop a recipe and it is successful for the first couple of years, but they don't upgrade it. They don't change it. They don't look at it again. And people go, okay, I've already done it, been there. And the thing is now, people, the probably the biggest compliment, and I don't think we need to go into full detail of Werks Reunion, because there's a video that we released that gives you the details of what you can see there. But I think the biggest compliment was so many people came to us and said, I was over at the Quail and it was cool and I liked the da 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 da, but I left there to come over to Werks Reunion because I didn't want to miss it.
Yeah, and to me, that's one of the most impressive things about Werks Reunion is generally nature hates a vacuum, and new things come in on days where there isn't much going on. Tim Sutter's great show in Pacific Grove on Tuesday, kind of took the place of Tuesday at Concours on the Avenue, but Friday was pretty well stocked. You've got to really have something to offer to succeed on Friday, which is really prime time for Monterey.
I won't mention which events, but I know there are events that have moved their days off of Friday.
Yeah.
Because I firmly believe we kind of take stock in a lot of Friday, and they don't want to go up against us.
I was watching this video yesterday. One of our attendees had filmed about the Werks, from when he left his house to when he went to the park at the corral. And what got me was he was like, well, we've been in the corral here for 3 hours. We're going to go check the rest of the show out. And I thought, that's exactly what we wanted. Yeah. We didn't want a show where people came for an hour and left.
Right.
We wanted them to spend the whole day just to hang out and be part of Car Week, because everything else in Car Week, you essentially have to be invited to show your car, and it's super expensive. But here we wanted just, you got a regular 993, nothing special about it. It's going to be special here, and you can be proud of it and show it off. So the fact that they spent 3 hours in the corral before they decided to walk over to the main field spoke volumes of how there's something for everyone. And really, you can plan to spend all day and not be bored.
Oh, yeah. You can't. You can't see everything in the day. There's so many cars, and cars coming in and out, visiting with all the vendors, and that's we definitely want people to spend the whole day with us.
And just catching up with people that honestly you haven't seen for maybe a year or something like that. It's just, it's a wonderful opportunity to catch up with people, see some great cars, vendors. It's really
but it's a long day for us.
Yeah.
What time we get there, Damon? Around
6, I think.
We're at 6 in the morning.
6. Luckily, I think we got the Starbucks. Starbucks is open. We went there, thank God, and got some quick breakfast and a coffee, and then we shot over. And it was right as soon as you land, you touch ground, you start working. And we're not the first ones there. People are already there working and setting up. And so we get done around 6 o'clock in the evening, and it's nonstop working. It's
but again, on how smooth this one went off, I think we finished at like 5:15 and had to wait for our sort of small dinner to be ready.
I am going to address, just like I think it's important for us to recognize things that we can improve on. And those that were there, again, we warned everyone that there's traffic, and we actually hire a traffic consulting company and come in. They manage the traffic. Now, currently there's one way in and one way out, and we haven't had this issue before. I think we're a bit of a victim of our success, where the volume has increased, but it was really because where the entrance and exit dumps out to, that main thoroughfare was completely packed. So there was really there was some significant wait times on the way out from Werks Reunion. So I do want to recognize we recognize that ourselves during the event, and we started talking to and we've said this before to the local police department and such. Like, we always ask for their assistance, but sometimes we're so good, they're like, no, you guys are fine. You've got someone managing your traffic, so they don't come. And this year was a year that really showed that we do need it, and we've already asked. So those of you that are wondering what are we going to do different, we've already asked. We've already worked with the facility to maybe have either another plan or get additional resources from the local police department to keep the traffic flowing. But other than that, I mean, man,
I thought the people in the vest did a good job. I mean, I came during peak traffic. And
internally
once
on
you get to our door.
Once you get on our property, it was fine. It was the problem is
getting out. It's that light.
But it's a two-lane road kind of behind the fair.
There's and talking like Vu said, there's other solutions we can explore. We haven't needed that before because, I told Vu initially, I'm like, what happened from the last couple of times we've been here that there hasn't been an issue? There was a lot more people. What the police estimate?
10,000.
10,000 people. So that's a lot more than before.
That's a lot. That's a small.
And we don't
event.
charge entry per person. It's just a parking fee. So if you come in a minivan with 10 people, that's the same as if you come by yourself in a 911.
But having said that, though, I mean, when you go to a concert, you kind of expect that you're going to be sitting in traffic for an hour to get out of the garage. I mean, that's kind of normal.
An hour and a half to get out of the.
We don't want that either. But I mean, the reality is that's probably what's going to be. And if you're super agitated with that, like, don't leave. Either leave early or just like wait till the crash. Because by 5 o'clock, I mean, it was a smooth flow out of the venue.
Right. But I mean, that's a medium-sized sporting event. 10,000 people.
Essentially, that's 4:30.
It's a soccer game or a Phoenix Coyotes game.
So in addition to the regular stuff that we're doing to prepare for Werks Reunion, I was a bit nervous because we had heard. And we mentioned it earlier that Andreas Berninger was wanting to come, and I had been texting back and forth and making sure that, when he decides to come, make sure we greet him and if he wanted to address the crowd, that we would love. I offered him to come on stage. Normally, like, I don't get starstruck, so to speak, but that was kind of a big responsibility to bring him on stage and interview him. So hopefully I didn't flub it. I'm glad we didn't record it because I'm not even sure what I said.
No, you did fine.
You did fine. You were not.
If you were a tree, what would you be?
I was like, don't ask lame questions.
What's your
and in
favorite
fact,
animal?
he kind of gave us some little insider stuff. I don't know if we can mention it here, but some insider stuff about models.
I think you can if the
I guess
audience of 10,000 people.
Exactly.
Yeah, you were not Chris. Does anyone remember like Chris Farley from SNL? His interviewing. It's like, remember designed the GT3 RS 4.0?
Cool.
That was awesome. You were not that guy.
Yeah. And I think the crowd also enjoyed the fact that
you played to the crowd when you started asking questions about GT cars and electricity.
Yeah,
that's what I heard. But I couldn't listen, closely. But when I was filming and everything, I heard him say that electric cars doesn't mean no GT cars.
Right.
So.
And again, the biggest compliment to all those that put together Werks is he thoroughly enjoyed himself. I let him walk the grounds first before we announced that he was there, so he wouldn't have a crowd.
That was his first time to Werks.
Yeah,
that was surprising.
Oh, no. He had been to maybe Rancho a long time ago.
I thought I heard it was his first time.
So he went out with Aaron and the executive council first, came up, did the interview on stage, went back out into the crowd because he's like, let me just walk around. I still would like to see more cars, taking photos with everybody. And then before he left, he's like, Boo, if for next year you're looking for a judge, I would love to be a judge next year.
Wow.
What?
That would be ultimate.
My mind was blown. And I looked around and I'm like, you are all witnesses. AP wants to be a judge at Werks Reunion. That's a given.
And we have to definitely mic him up, put like one of those cameras on his forehead, have a translator at the judges these cars.
I was like, phew, that all worked out because I was kind of stressed with that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
So for those who didn't attend, we have a stage area, which is kind of like a green and we parked cars on there. And this year we had a great selection of special cars. We had a Gunther Werks Speedster. Was it a white one, I guess? Cream color?
White with the Pepita interior.
The Racers Group brought their 2004, I think.
Yep. Thank you, Kevin Buckley.
GT or RS 911 RSR that won Daytona overall. And why this car is significant is that it was a GT car, and I was at that race. It was a GT car that was running against, at the time, was brand new Daytona prototypes, a new car, a new class that wasn't tested, and they started breaking down. And for the GT car to not only turn a faster lap time, but to win overall was unheard of. So at the time, there was also two drivers that were not that well known, Timo Bernard and Jörg Bergmeister. They were junior drivers, believe it or not, back then.
Wow.
And Kevin wasn't sure if how they would do. He wasn't too thrilled about having two junior drivers on a car he was hoping to win his class with. But as it turned out, they would become legendary drivers in the 24. So that was pretty cool that he brought that car. And it was probably, without a doubt, the loudest car there. We had a car that wasn't a Porsche, but raced with Porsches, and it's been invited to many Porsche events because it's a Denzel. I kept on calling it Denzel, but it's not Denzel. Denzel.
I love that Denzel.
Basically a custom-made, homemade, looked like a Spider of sorts, but it had a really hopped-up Beetle engine, and then it would end up being the designer, Denzel, would do his own engines, and it was very fragile looking, but very cool looking.
Did you know that car has pretty much lived in Monterey most of its
That's
life?
what the owner was here. I was talking to the owner about it, and he was telling me the story, because I kept on hearing different things. Like people said, oh, it has a 356 engine. Oh, it has a Porsche suspension. And the more I kept on looking it up on my phone, I was thinking, I'm not seeing any of this is true. But that was on display, so a lot of people hadn't seen that. And then probably the biggest surprise was Edith.
And when we heard Edith was able to come to Werks Reunion, we want to put it on the kind of on the side of the hill there, and people got to climb all over it. It was,
you probably saw it in the news. Edith was a rock crawler that was designed to climb, was it 23 or 20,000, David?
20,000.
Like an altitude record.
20,000 feet on the side of a volcano.
And they started off with a regular 911 C4S, I think. And you can see from the inside. From the outside, it looks like there's nothing at all remotely related to a street car. Yeah, and what I thought was really cool, and talking to the handler, was that Porsche had an altitude chamber at Weissach that they used for the Mooney aircraft when they were developing that engine.
For the Mooney PFM, they still have that around?
So when they were developing the engine to run at altitude, they needed to replicate that type of altitude and pressure and everything. So they had this altitude chamber. So when the old guys found out that they were working on this project to take this 911 to this altitude, they were like, oh, you should use the altitude chamber that no one remembered that they had. So basically they got it fired up, and they were able to use this chamber to help develop the engine so it would still operate efficiently at that kind of altitude.
I'm just imagining, somewhere in Weissach, there's this door to a room that nobody's gone into for like
that's what I thought
4 decades, and like, what's behind that door?
So that's what that's for. But it was. This car looks so heavy duty. It made a Ford F-250 look like a plaything with the suspension components.
Did you see how the front suspension was tied to the rear suspension?
Gigantic
bars,
shock,
like all connected through the
horizontally. And Romain Dumas is the one who drove it and set the record. And it wasn't a speed record; it was altitude. So this thing moved very slowly as it went up the volcano. Yeah. And I think it was Chile, was it?
I'm sure it was, yeah.
The Andes somewhere. But they premiered a movie.
So we were cleaning up, so we didn't make the premiere. But later that evening, after Werks Reunion, they premiered the movie that Edith is in.
And they gave away hats that had Edith with the outline of the mountain, I guess, the volcano.
Did you get one?
I got one thanks to Trish. Because we didn't make it. We had other things we were doing. but Richard and Trish went, and she said, "I'm not ever going to wear this hat. You want it?" I'm like, "Yes, because that's the ultimate insider hat."
Yeah. Yeah.
We did find out why they named it Edith. Couldn't find out why the second one was named Doris, because I ran out of time. I had to get back to work by doing my work. But I searched on the internet and finally found it. It's a, I think, 1920s or 30s French cabaret singer. It was named after.
That's pretty
Interesting.
obscure.
Edith Piaf or something like that.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So thank you to Shelby for getting Edith to Werks Reunion. Thank you for getting all the invitations to the premiere. And if I'm lucky, I think she might have saved me a hat. So hopefully I'll be able to rock one.
But that was the car. That was just the cars on the main stage, and then, man, you went as you went further. Like we said, one whole section of the Restoration Challenge cars.
Yep.
Which every year they seem to like keep on upping the game. Everything from a 997, which is a classic now, all the way to a Speedster, or a 58 Speedster.
So they would have already heard the podcast that we recorded at Werks Reunion, right? And we made a prediction. And so we can say our prediction was correct in terms of people choice for the Classic Restoration Challenge was
the BB Auto hybrid
Targa.
I was waiting for us to get to the BB Auto.
Yeah. Fantastic. So
that was I thought about Rob, because Rob wasn't there yet when he didn't get there till later in the afternoon. But I thought Rob is going to appreciate this, because he's of the age like I am that we remember.
This is on the cover of Road and Track.
Yeah, seeing in a magazine these cars, especially they had the 928 that had T-tops. Now, for those who don't know, Porsche never made T-tops, and they certainly didn't make it for the 928. So this was all
put
custom.
the bar to good use, though, in the center.
Yes. On the driver's side was, what do you think, 3 DIN?
Equalizers, it's all stereo system.
It's all stereo system, so retro. Back then it was like
love it.
state-of-the-art. Equalizer, like Damon said, radio. I think it might have been a tape deck with it. It was so cool back then. It was... They had a 928 convertible and a 911 slant nose.
Slant nose.
I'm
Two
kind of
928s.
thinking, if you're
Right?
driving
Yeah.
that car, you want to make an adjustment.
You got to look up. Yeah.
And most people, I would tell them as they walk by, I'm like, "Did you look inside the driver's side T-top?" And they're like, "No." And they're like, "Oh my God,
Rob, maybe I should connect you with Varone.
I've got him. I've got
Oh,
his
did you
card.
connect with him? Yeah.
He's got the best business card ever.
Yeah. Very cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so for those who didn't listen to last week's episode, you should. They're obviously bringing back the brand, and this was a great way to, I guess, tell the world that they were bringing back the brand.
It's in the best hands imaginable. Another BB, Bo Bachman
Yes.
from Galpin,
Yep.
is now the custodian of that brand.
So they had, about 160 some judge cars, I think.
171, if I remember correctly.
171.
171? Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll bring it up.
And they did a great job of spreading them out around. I saw vendors, and I'm thinking, wow, these vendors seem to be really far away, some of them. But once the cars were laid out, it was perfect. Because,
171 judge cars and 575 corral cars. So
Nice.
740.
we used a
almost
lot
740.
more space this time than the last time. There was one whole area. They had the 6, I think, IROC tribute cars.
Oh, and the sports purpose side?
Yeah, sports purpose.
Yeah.
So here's the funny thing about that. So Tom Pravasi, the day before setting up signs, he goes, "Look what happened to this sign." He goes, "Somebody ran over it with a tire." And I looked at it, I said, "Tom, that is the most awesome sign for sports purpose. It looked like someone did a burnout on the sign."
Oh, nice.
I'm like, "You got to keep it." He goes, "Really?" I'm like, "You couldn't have got any better graphics than, but it looks like a burnout where it says sports purpose."
So you would have paid
That's
$100 for
legit,
that or
yeah,
something.
exactly.
I told him, I said, "Do not throw away that sign. I'll take it." That's like, that is also, he stuck it in as the main sign, not the other way around.
Yeah.
That was clean with the, so I'm sure people walked by thought we did that on purpose to have like a burnout on the sign. But yeah, there were so many cool cars to, and I felt bad when we did the video because we could only do so many cars.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Damon's going to be editing for the next year. And there were so many that we didn't pick. So it wasn't certainly because we were trying to diss anyone. It was just that some
There's
point
only
we had
so
to,
many we can do. Yeah.
we had
Yeah.
to pick and try to make some kind of resemblance of a video. So
Hey, we got a 914 in there, though. So
We did. We
did.
definitely got
And
9.
honestly, we do have to give props to somebody actually close to Porsche Panorama. Ilko Nechev, our ad sales executive brought his restored 993, which has a great story behind it. He bought the rustiest 993 coupe probably on the planet from upstate New York, originally I think an arena red car, and it is now maritime blue and absolutely stunningly beautiful.
Yeah, with dolphin gray wheels.
Dolphin gray
the car
wheels,
pops.
hardback sports seats. Oh my
Slick
goodness.
top, no more sunroof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing what a different color of car makes such an impact, right? Like that same car in silver, you probably went, it's kind of a nice 993, but maritime blues, you're like, what the heck is
I
that
mean,
car?
it's a
rode
notch
back with
above
him.
Riviera.
I rode back with him to the airport, to the hotel from In-N-Out. And while we were trying to get out of In-N-Out, he had somebody asking him if that's a factory slick top. And I thought, I guess that's the problem when you modify a car
Yeah.
to look like
Sure.
something else that people...
What did he say?
Well, the guy just said, is this a factory slick top?
What did Ilko say?
Oh, I said, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy still was very complimentary
Yeah.
to the
Yeah,
to
the car
to
turned
clean
out just
install.
beautifully.
And we're still on Friday, so we woke up early, had Werks Reunion, clean up, put things away. We have our volunteer dinner, and that's not the end. Now we're at 7 o'clock or so. We go back to the hotel, get
And
spit
we
feet,
resist the urge to lay down because I knew if I lay down, I would not
You
be
would
getting
never
back
get
up
up.
again.
because if you didn't go to the Edith movie premiere, then the next stop would be the Zentrum party at the barn, and it was packed. And we arrived there fashionably late, 8 o'clock, but there was still plenty of stuff going on.
So we have a special entrance that we go through that Boo knows about. Evidently, Rob did not know about this.
No, I did,
So don't
'cause
don't say where it's at, Rob. Don't say.
I'm
where
not
it's
going to
at.
say, but I saw Timo Resch going in, and I'm like, he's not waiting in the line.
But evidently, the line was pretty long to get
Yes.
in.
Yes.
And anyways,
Thank you to the folks at PCA for recognizing that we get there late due to works, and so they kind of give us an efficient route to enter the
so
event.
who gets invited? If you're going to explain to someone what this party is.
I would say Porsche VIPs, dealer VIPs, and influencers.
Yep, that's a good.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of I would imagine if you're a dealer VIP or you think you are, maybe talk to your dealer and they can arrange with
Yeah.
PCA to get you
If you got a 911 ST allocation,
What I like about it is, I mean, there might be a handful, but the majority of people there, I feel, are true enthusiasts. Like there is a filter, like an enthusiast filter that you're going to get there, because it's going to be people that either work for PCNA or PAG, or people that have the cars, or people that are interested in looking at the new cars. So it's a different kind of crowd, and you can expect that your conversations will be like legitimate and not just, hey, look at me taking a selfie with the 993 Speedster. I think.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you're there, when we were there, we were there during setup, because we thought we'd try to. And there was a Wednesday we stopped by during setup, and there was a car inside the barn that was covered up. And
we got there way too early because they were
Too early, yeah.
really set.
Yeah.
There was something
too early, and we kind of got excited thinking that maybe, just maybe, it's the 992.2. But it wasn't, and that's okay, because it was also a very special car underneath the cover, and it was Danny Blue.
Yeah.
And so Danny Blue was there, the 993 Speedster was there, the 50th Turbo was there, and the Mecum.
Yeah,
Not
and
electric.
Thursday was a good day to be there when they did the reveal of the 50th. But it's great
Once
space.
again, we weren't
I
there.
mean, it's
we were setting up.
Thanks
Yeah.
for reminding us, Rob.
sorry, but it's great physical space. I mean, it's literally 2 blocks from the Portola.
Yeah, the problem is,
Hotel.
though,
The problem is
it's
it's
a dirt floor.
It's so dusty, and I felt
Yeah.
so bad for
Oh,
all
my
the cars, especially the open top 993
So
Speedster. You're gonna have to detail that car for days.
Well, we
to get
got
all the
there
dust out
at
of it.
night for the Friday night party. They had like great blue lighting inside where the Danny Blue was, but you could see the haze of dust on this car.
Yeah,
And I was like, wow, that would just trigger me.
yeah.
If I was the owner of the car, because then the car itself had its own bodyguard. Did you see that? I think it had 2 bodyguards, and they had and kudos to Porsche. Somebody mentioned this on the video. they had a not a rope, but like a metal rope around it, but it was very low, so it didn't affect photographs. And you could get really close to this car, but they had two guys in suits who were starting to eye you up if you were getting a little bit too close to the car, or they thought you were going to touch it or do anything. But if they saw you talking to the owner, they gave you more leeway.
Right.
They should have just had one of those old car alarms set up. Who made those? The ones that I know you'd like to look inside.
Viper.
Please step away from the ride.
Viper alarm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Hey, thanks for bringing that back. That was a cool memory. And the fact that I knew it right away because I used to sell them.
I know. I knew you'd catch
so
that
those low stanchions, it's kind of like a double-edged sword because a lot of people who's chit-chatty and walking and don't pay attention, they trip over them.
Yeah.
And if you trip over them, you trip into the car.
I think that's why they had the security there too.
I think probably the best solution is to actually elevate the car, and then people, like have a box that people can't get into.
I do remember when they were doing it at the Quail, this party. I remember the 918 Spider with a big chunk taken out of the carbon fiber.
Oh yes, I remember
that. I went to tell Porsche, I'm like, I guess you know about the big chunk of paint.
Yeah.
On the rear fender, and he's like, "What?" And I took him over. He's like, "Oh my god!" And it was a big chunk of not just paint but carbon fiber taken out of it. And he was like, "There were some girls sitting on it." And I told him not to sit on the car, taking pictures. So I don't know if they did it or what. Anyways, it stuck in my head that people, unfortunately, maybe the alcohol has something to do with it, but they forget common sense and they get all over the car. They're touching it. They're sitting on it. Stuff that you would never do at a normal car show.
Yeah.
I guess they figure that Porsche owns it, it's okay to do it.
I think at the time when it was like the Zentrum party, you don't have to worry about that. But when you open it up to the public, that's when the public doesn't understand the protocol, so to speak, and they touch it, open things up, and that's when
there's a lot of people at the party, at the Zentrum party. Yeah. It was packed, but great place to make connections. And I have to say, all throughout the week, tons of people, tons of listeners came up to thank us for doing the podcast videos. It was very nice to see our efforts aren't going to naught, that people actually listen to the podcast and respond well.
And the cap off Friday, because it didn't end after the Zentrum, we had to get the obligatory double or single, or we headed to In-N-Out.
All right,
it was a zoo.
It was a zoo.
It was
wow.
It was.
It looked like a car show happening at In-N-Out when we pulled in.
Did you see how young?
Yes.
And I'm either getting old or they're just getting younger. But the people that had all the supercars in the parking lot of In-N-Out were incredibly young. I was like, what the heck? That's.
I love cryptocurrency.
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Congratulations to them. So that wraps up Friday, and then Saturday morning came up way too early, but we had to kind of divide and conquer because we had a lot of stuff to take care of. Manny and Damon headed back over to the Zentrum to do some interviews and filming, while I had the opportunity, Ilko and I headed over to Mecum Auctions, where we greeted about, I would say, 50, 60 PCA members, where they got sort of an inside introduction to Mecum Auctions. It was really cool. They had special parking. They had a room for us in the conference center. Lee Giannone and David Morton greeted everyone, kind of gave them some...
That's pretty two high up guys at Mecum. Too.
Oh, very high up. And gave some background information, answered questions, and then we walked up and took a group photo with the iconic Steve McQueen car before everything got started.
The 917.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I encouraged everyone to stay and listen to the start of the Mecum auction, which is very cool. They play the national anthem, and then they play, I think it's AC/DC?
Thunderstruck,
to kick everything off. And
a lot different than Broad Arrow.
One of the few real bargains in the Porsche world at auctions during Car Week was there a 2004 C4S manual for $24,000.
Wow. What kind of miles on it?
It had like 124,000 miles, but it looked pretty nice.
That's a wide body, too.
Yeah,
Oh.
C4S.
That's a good
So
one.
that was officially the least expensive Porsche sold.
Was your recent engagement is what stopped you from buying that, or?
So here, I'll throw one out for you guys. So as we were leaving Mecum, one of a PCA couples came up and said hi, and we were walking along, and there's this light yellow Cayenne, 2012 Cayenne Turbo S. No, not Turbo S. Cayenne Turbo, with 23,000 miles. Super clean. They were incredibly interested. In fact, they stayed. I think I'll send you the video of the auction. How much do you think a 2012 23,000 mile Cayenne Turbo? It was light yellow with tan interior.
40?
You know what? I saw, and looking through the Mecum results, I saw that, and my eyes kind of bulged out, but I can't remember the number.
Damon, any thoughts on how much that car would have gone?
I'm going to go with Manny's 40.
Yeah, so I would agree with you that it would have been a great deal at 40. The auction estimate was 50 to 60, and the car went for 48. Like,
there we
good
go.
money.
Yeah.
Good
It's so
money.
hard to tell with those cars because there's so many options
Yeah.
that can really escalate the price of that
Oh, yeah.
car.
It had Burmester
Burmester,
stereo.
yeah, something like that.
It had wood. It had. It looks like the rear seat had never no one's ever been in the rear seat. You could kind of tell that maybe like a heavy set person owned it because like just a side bolster was the only thing that was worn. But you could, some detail shop would be able to fix it. But the car was super super clean.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're talking about Cayennes being at Monterey auctions at this point is pretty interesting. I mean,
yeah.
it's not, I think we're going to see more of it. I think we'll see, really special ones like, 08 GTS manuals and things like that, Turbo S's.
Mecum is the affordable auction in some respects. I mean, that's the only auction that I look at stuff and I'm like,
Yeah.
I think I can bid on this.
Affordable being a relative term.
Well, I mean, it's
And the level of car is also
yeah, but
affordable.
what did Ramsey tell us on the cruise that the average price of one of their broad arrow cars it averages to 700,000? I think he said. So that's Mecum. You're looking at cars, especially on Thursday. That's what I call the cars that Manny can afford day. As every car goes by, I'm like, yep, I could have gotten that. I could have gotten that. I could have gotten that.
Occasionally something will sneak through at Bonhams, too, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, yeah. So that was Saturday morning, and then I joined Manny and Damon and Boggs back over at the Zentrum. We did a video on Danny Blue,
Yeah, we did an earlier video with
the Speedster.
Porsche on the Speedster that's already out. Very, very interesting information. Got to meet the owner, and I think we'll have an article in Pano coming up. But it is, if you want exclusive, Singer's not it. If you want exclusive, you got to get a Sunderwunsch car. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But that's just the fact of the matter is that it is the ultimate exclusivity. I believe it's about a 4-year wait for a car. That's how long it takes. But you are treated like you're
like you are an employee.
Yeah, an employee. He had a employee pass that he could get into more things than the guy who was interviewing on stage was like he had more access than most of us have at Weissach and at Zuffenhausen, that he could just simply walk in and use the employee badge to open up doors that they cannot. He is a designer, so he showed up to the meetings with his own design sketches, and he's working with Grant Larson, who's like the in-house designer now for Sunderwunsch. And Grant was like, this made my job super easy because I knew exactly what he wanted, and they fine-tuned some things, but it was essentially the way he literally dreamed this Speedster would be. And for those who don't know, Porsche never made a 993 Speedster. They had talked about it. They did some drawings. They made 2 of them, one for Butzi Porsche, a family member who designed the 911, and then, of course, Jerry Seinfeld. And that was it. And so this was what they call a third one. And it was a wide body. It was just really fascinating, all the details on it. And yeah, I would go watch the video, and you'll learn a lot.
Now, I know people that have the opportunity to have a Slender Wunsch car probably don't care, but I gotta say it's the ultimate flex.
Oh yeah, without a doubt,
Ultimate flex.
And while they didn't discuss price, it is probably the highest I've seen for a car like that. It is.
If you have to ask, it's not for you.
You could buy a couple Singers easy,
Yeah.
from what I gather, price wise, and yeah, and of course Porsche is going to parade this car around.
Yeah.
I asked the owner of Danny Blue. I said, "So did you get this back home after this event?" And he was like, "No, that car's going to spend a year at the Porsche Museum."
No, I would say at least.
Yeah, and so it's something that obviously Porsche is very proud of, and it illustrates how far you can go, how customized you can make your Porsche.
Yeah, it was incredible. I had a 10-minute conversation with Grant after the unveiling just about the mirrors on the car.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to really look at the details on it to appreciate it. And the side mirrors are basically an homage. If you remember the Talbot
mirrors.
bullet mirrors,
Yeah.
That's what they're inspired by. And they actually work. I mean, anybody who's ever had a set of Talbot mirrors on their car realizes that while they look very pretty, functionally as
Oh my
mirrors,
God.
they are
They're terrible.
They're essentially useless. I think I still have neck issues. My 914 had them, just kind of craning to be able to see anything. But it was so cool. They had like the little, even they're electric on that car. They had like the little adjusting screw in the bullet point of the mirror. I mean, it was such a perfect.
And we've said it before, and this is the difference, right? So when Porsche produces a piece like this, it just isn't. You could have a shop, buy a set of Talbot mirrors or Talbot look-alike mirrors and bolt them on the door and call it a day. They have to get all that stuff roadworthy and approved.
It's got to be approved by TÜV.
Yeah, exactly.
And those things actually have to work.
Right. And then let's say you're the headlights that they have, want, with it's got the modern day 4-point LED. It's not simply bolting it on. Like they have to design it, engineer it, and get it past through regulations.
I asked them, I said, when this car was made, the wiring was completely different. There was no CAN bus or electronics as there is now. But so when this these headlights were made, this matrix headlight, it's a whole different wiring in new cars. Mm-hmm. So I said, was there as much behind the scenes? They basically said yes.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of behind the scenes to make these headlights. And I believe, Damon, do you remember, I thought he told me that on those mirrors, they were only able to use it because it's still a 80s or 90s car.
Yeah.
And
so
it wouldn't be available on any modern car.
No, it wouldn't. So those mirrors, inspired by old Talbot mirrors, but they actually made an appearance. I believe they're the exact same mirrors, made an appearance on the 991 Speedster concept.
Yeah.
I think is what they were saying. And so they didn't show up on the 991 Speedster because of legal reasons, but because this 993 is an older car, and back then you could have spec'd a mirror like that, then they're okay. So.
Yeah, when it's Porsche, like you said before, they have to make sure it's all safety passed, and it's a lot different than when a smaller aftermarket company tuner is making a car.
Yeah, like if let's say somebody in California, for example, wanted those mirrors. Yeah, I don't know about that. You probably have to go look at the California code to see if that was allowed back in the 90s, sort of thing. But in Italy, they were perfectly fine.
So we're still on Saturday, and we've checked out of the hotel because we are flying out of San Jose super early Sunday morning, and this is where my wife accuses me oftentimes, but I think Manny and Damon headed off to San Jose, but thank you to Boggs and Manny for indulging me because there's still 2 more events I would like to do before we get to San Jose.
There was no way I could have.
I was promised Vietnamese food, and I never got any.
In fact, I forgot to feed you dinner.
Lunch. It was lunch.
Oh yeah,
exactly. If I hadn't left when I did.
I wanted. So I love to people watch. I love chaos, and especially when I'm not in control of it. Like I love being in the middle of it. And if you thought Motorlux was like crazy and a good place to people watch, we headed to Exotics on Broadway. Now the name might indicate a sophisticated experience on Broadway. However, it's actually in the town of Seaside It is on Broadway, which is the street, but it is probably the polar opposite of a hoity-toity highbrow event.
I thought this was the show that was in along the harbor in downtown Monterey.
Manny's like,
I'm like, where are we going? And he's like, the Exotics on Broadway. And I'm looking for that nice hotel, and I'm thinking, this is nowhere near where I think it is. And it wasn't. Like, it was Broadway, like you said.
It was Broadway.
Right.
And finding a parking space in the neighborhood was a challenge, especially because we were in a 3/4 ton Dodge. But
Dodge
were you impressed that I found a spot, and actually a very convenient
I was
spot?
very impressed with your parking skills.
Yes.
Very impressed. Thank God for rear view cameras too. And
it was a
motion
zoo.
sensors.
It was a zoo.
It's an interesting crowd. Apparently, a testament to the fact that you can make a lot of money with dietary supplements and cryptocurrency.
And
it was about, I would say, my guess is 20,000 people.
Oh, at least.
Because there was so many streets that were closed.
Yeah.
And they called it the People's Show. Because it was the polar opposite of, I guess, what Pebble Beach would be. A lot of enthusiasm, though, for the cars. Different types of music than maybe at Pebble Beach.
It was all hip-hop. I loved it.
Yes.
I loved it.
And the music changed like every 20 feet that you went. Someone else was blasting it louder. They had rap battles going on.
They did, in Spanish.
Yes, in Spanish.
I loved it.
I could understand everything that was
Manny,
being
where are they
spoken.
saying?
But there was also the manufacturers. There was Pagani,
Oh,
Koenigsegg.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't just some owners of the cars. These were the manufacturers.
And selling merch.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the only thing they were selling. I don't think they took too many orders for
But I
for
love
cars.
that watching. There was a lot of young people there, and I
Tons,
bet
tons.
this would have been me as a kid. I would have begged my dad to go to something like that, and it would have been so impressionable to see all these supercars, and now seeing young people having the opportunity to own these cars. Probably the most hilarious part as we're walking, the guys from DDE, Daily Driven Exotics, rolled up, and of course they were doing the DDE thing where they were just putting it in neutral and just revving it to the moon. But they're also inching up as they're trying to get to their spot, and it was a bunch of people behind them, like little ducklings, walking
About
behind the car,
30 to 40 of them,
easily
holding selfie sticks,
and taking photos,
just sucking in that exhaust as they went.
We're just waiting for one of these cars to catch on fire because they are just bouncing off the red line. It was,
and it wasn't just them. It was like every
Oh, yeah.
car you saw
Oh, yeah.
being escorted to be parked on display. And much of the crowd's delight was sitting there revving, like Bruce said, right the red line. It was a whole different scene, but it was so vibrant and there was so much action going on. You were never bored. And I kept on. I heard somebody behind me go, he goes, what do you say? He goes, this is just like Pebble Beach without the grass. Well, it's a little bit of a stretch, but
different.
yeah, it was definitely car enthusiasm, car culture is not dying.
If you think the youth don't care about cars, go there and it will change your mind.
And like we said, at that age, I would have been the same way, being able to see all these cars that I might have seen only on Instagram and being able to see them in person.
And hear them.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It was very cool. And a lot of the owners were letting the kids sit in the cars, and and it was free.
Absolutely.
They didn't charge anything, so I guess
gates.
they make the money off the sponsors and vendors that are situated. And I guess the stores that sold food were happy too, because we saw a lot of the tiendas.
I wanted to
set
get
up.
some of those fruit cups. Those
I know.
fresh
I
fruit
saw
cups.
you walk
Did
by
see me?
and slow down.
I'm like, oh, horchata,
And I'm like, are we gonna go eat that a little
tamarindo,
bit?
and fruit cups. I'm like, oh, but we got to go to our next event. And the next event was, thank you to Peter Nam. We got an invitation.
The
to
polar
go.
opposite from Exotics on Broadway.
Yes, yeah.
We went from empanadas to steak tartare.
Exactly. We went to the Gunther Werks hosted party on Carmel Valley Road. Yeah.
Did you guys replicate yourselves? I mean, this is
what happens when you hang out with
astonishing.
Vu.
Yeah, this is nonstop. We get there, and Peter Nam, who's if you never met him, he is such a genuine, down to earth guy. Immediately says, "Let me get you guys some tequila."
Oh,
And
best decision ever.
I guess I'm not a tequila drinker, because he takes a sip, goes, "Oh, it's so smooth," and I drink it. And once again, I'm not a tequila drinker, but in my mouth, I'm thinking, how am I gonna get rid of this? Because I'm not a heavy drinker, and
So
I like it when it's mixed in with strawberry margarita mix.
Yeah, so I'm not a tequila tequila drinker. Well, it sounds like I've had tequila. I am not a tequila drinker either. However, so Peter is the type of person, much like the cars that they produce, he's very into, he has an idea, he has a thought, and that's why Gunther Works became what they are today. During COVID, he, I don't know if he was introduced to tequila or he liked tequila, but he was also going, I think there's a special way of blending it or something, and he kind of messed around. And so anyways, this is what he was sharing with us as like his own tequila. And I don't know if it's going to be commercially available or anything like that, but and again, I don't drink it, but I was definitely wanting to taste it, and it was so smooth and delicious. I'm like, uh-oh. And this is why I don't do drugs, because I'm worried that it's probably good. And I don't smoke because it's probably good. And I don't vape because it's probably good. But anyways, this tequila was fantastic. And so I had a little sample and enjoyed it very much. And then all of a sudden, my little tasting became a little bit more because I acquired Manny's portion. Because Manny's like, you said this is smooth. It tastes like I'm drinking lighter fluid.
No insult to Peter.
Drink the part that Manny expectorated back into the shot glass.
You're listening.
Yeah, Peter
is a heavy drinker.
He's just not there yet.
I'm not. I'm not a refined tequila drinker.
But what an opportunity to actually, we were in the park. We kind of got there a little bit early. Or maybe we just decided not to walk in just yet, but just in the parking lot at the Gunther Works event, a Dynan M5 showed up, a new Lotus showed up, the black RWB showed up, some really cool cars, and we were just meeting with some PCA members in the parking lot, and then we finally moved in. And when we moved into inside, they had the two open Gunther Works, and then they had the Gunther Works with a flat fan in the back. Oh, that car was beautiful.
Yeah, all their stuff is such works of art. I wish I had the turbo, but they had that already parked at Pebble Beach for the next day. So I can't wait to see what the turbo looks like.
And we're hoping that if timing and availability works out, that we'll see a few of them at Unstock later this year.
Peter gave us a sneak preview into what's coming, and we can't talk about it, but it is very exciting to hear what's on the horizon that he's working on.
He doesn't stop. He does not stop. He continues to he's that mad scientist.
No, yeah. If you come into a lot of money, you might want to give Gunther Works a call.
All right, so I would like to just remind you, if you haven't signed up for the PCA newsletters, make sure you go to PCA.org and sign up for e-brake news, performance news, and Mark Fresh news. And let's get into the news. And the first one up has to do with the battery brand that you may be familiar with.
Yeah, so Porsche took a majority stake in Varta, which is a battery production company. What's interesting is they're making it for the hybrids. So when I read the article, it made me think that obviously this means that Porsche is investing, is going to be sticking with hybrids for a while. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I didn't say in there they also make regular batteries, but that's one of their specialties is the hybrid. So it's something that they use in the GTS, and it's going to be for other hybrids. So obviously we're going to see more of the hybrid-like setup that was in the GTS, probably in other 911s. Mm-hmm. So.
I would think so.
And I think Porsche learned after the pandemic is maybe not trust all your suppliers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just do it yourself. So.
Yep. And the next one made the news a week before Monterey. And again, I think most of us here at the office was like, that can't be a Porsche. And but it's still nonetheless a very incredibly looking car.
Did you see this, Rob, when you were out and about?
I didn't. I saw the LAX spy shots, but I didn't see the actual car.
I couldn't figure out where it was on display, and I didn't see a whole lot of pictures online.
Yeah, I just saw something pop up on their Facebook page, so I wasn't quite sure where it was.
But it wasn't at the Quail?
I didn't see it.
So we got to say what we're talking about first, too.
Yeah.
Tuthill
GT
One style. Yeah. It looks like a Porsche 911 GT One.
Looks like a modern
version of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
beautiful car.
Yeah, it is. naturally aspirated, not turbocharged.
They said they have a turbocharged version.
Oh, they do.
500 horsepower without 600 horsepower with forced
Yeah.
induction.
So is it completely a custom car that just happens to look like a GT1?
Well, I think they wanted it to look like a GT1, all carbon fiber, less than 2,645 pounds. They're going to build 22 examples. Takes 3,500 hours to build it.
Super
No
plush on the
pricing on it
inside.
yet.
No, you definitely would win cars and coffee.
Yeah, I
with
was
that
about
car.
to say that you will definitely win any car show you go to.
Yeah. Tuthill's known for some cool stuff. They recently made a car, a 911 early that has an 11,000 RPM redline. So, they do some cool
Not to
stuff.
go backwards, but
You know what it looks suspiciously like.
I was really happy to see this in person, Manny. You have to tell me the name again. That the little car that ran at Goodwood that was at Motorlux.
Oh, the McMurdy.
McMurtry.
That thing is tiny. Like
Yeah,
I
it
thought it
is,
was
yeah.
small from looking at videos and
They
stuff.
had
But
that
when you
at,
see it in person,
at
it's
Motorlux.
a one-person car.
Oh yeah, you sit in the center and
Yeah.
you have like a piece, like the door comes down, you can't move your head,
Yeah.
so it's you're in there. You have enough.
Yeah, it's like a
enough space
personal
for
rocket ship.
Well, it's isn't it like fan? It's like
Sucker fans.
sucker fans that keep it down.
okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
in addition to being really fast, like was it 1.4 seconds 0 to 60? I think.
I read that it takes the Monterey, the Laguna Seca hill climb, the corkscrew going backwards. It takes it flat out.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's insane.
So
Wow.
What you got?
I was
there, Mr.
saying-
Sass?
The Tuthill GT One looks suspiciously like the rendering that we had
Oh, yeah, you're
back in
right.
2022.
You're right.
That Lars did for us, speculating if Porsche did an electric GT1 style hypercar. But I looked at that, I'm like, wait a minute, where have I seen
Looks
that
familiar.
before?
yeah, you're right.
Absolutely.
Except this is not electric.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not, obviously, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, that's
Very
pretty
close.
interesting.
All right. Let's see what else. Let's get into events. Open house is September 7th. Unfortunately, sold out, but we look forward to seeing everyone that is registered. And then Unstock, the next big national event aside from Treffen, will be happening Sunday, November 17th. The registration opens September 4th, and looking forward to seeing you all there. I think I've mentioned before, we have Grand Marshal Alan Springer. We have a new quote-unquote competition, which is the best sounding exhaust, which should be fun, a crowd pleaser, and I'm sure it's gonna kind of break the Porsche Instagram.
I think that that Racers Group RSR
Oh
for level sound.
yes,
I could see people holding their ears.
Oh, yeah.
How loud that thing was.
yeah, that was a treat to hear that thing.
Yes, that was very cool.
All right, and let's see videos. You want to just touch on real quickly, Damon?
Yeah, go watch the Werks Reunion video and the 993 Speedster Sonderwunsch video. And we're getting close to 100,000 views, so 100,000 subscribers. So if you
Almost
haven't
there.
subscribed-
Almost. I can't wait to do. We have to think about when we get that plaque. We're gonna do some sort of special unveiling. We're gonna do something
Gotcha.
fun with it.
Yeah.
Also want to remind you, if you're looking to race with like-minded individuals, head over to PCASimRacing.com. They'll teach you the ins and outs to set up your own rig. Or if you just want to buy one, that's just plug and play. They also have one of those available for you too. Anything else before we sign off this extended version of PCA Insider? You guys all good?
Yep.
Well, thank you very much for listening. If you aren't currently a PCA member and own a Porsche, what are you waiting for? Grab that VIN and head over and we'll set you up. If you don't own a Porsche yet, we have the test drive program, which will unlock some resources and advice to be able to get a Porsche on your driveway or in your garage. If you're looking for some PCA Insider merch, go to PCA's web store. We have bottles, t-shirts, mugs. And if you just simply want a PCA Insider decal, just send email to us with your information, where to send it to podcast@pca.org. Remember to follow our podcast Instagram page, behind the scenes photos and videos, Porsche Club Insider, all one word. If you want to stay in touch with everything, again, head over to pca.org and sign up for our PCA newsletters. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you down the road.